Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites. The purpose of this series is to allow you to recap your favorite comic books so you understand what's going on, allowing you to go out and buy more comic books because now you know the storyline. But just giving you a simple recap would be boring, so we add in music, weird voices, and sometimes sound effects. Now, in the events of our last story, Scott Summers of the X-Men led a charge against the Inhumans when the mutants found out that the Terrigen clouds were toxic to them. There was a bloody battle that followed when Scott put in motion a plan to stop the Terrigen cloud, which led to the death of him. But once a truce was settled between the two factions, Scott's brother Havoc learned that Scott in fact died in the early stages of the outbreak, and Emma Frost was using his projection to start this war. That was the death of X, and I'll link it down below. Now it's time to do the first half of Inhumans versus X-Men. It has been 8 months since Scott Summers fell at the hands of the Inhuman Black Bolt, and Hank McCoy finds himself looking at Scott's grave, asking if it was all really worth it. Hell, he's not even sure if he made the right decision himself, but there's really no point in asking because he's dead anyway. Since then, he started working on finding a solution regarding the Terrigen Mist, but he's come to the realization that he has in fact failed. They're running out of time. Hank's younger self, Henry, asks what does he mean by out of time, because it looks like some terrible time travel pun. Hank laughs, saying that he wishes that was the case, but the situation that they are now looking at is that Scott managed to stomp one of the Terrigen clouds. However, that leaves one of them still out there. Emma shouts that they should just hurry and finish off what Scott started. Destroy the second cloud and be done with it. Storm tells her that they can't because they agreed to a truce with the Inhumans, and they will honor their word. But Emma and Storm begin to argue whether they should be aggressive or not, and Hank tells them to stop. There's more to what he has to say. In the recent days, there's been an increase in the Terrigen saturation levels all over the world, not just in the cloud's wake. Very soon, there will be a tipping point where the bonds holding the cloud will dissipate, and it will rapidly spread throughout the atmosphere. When that happens, the Earth will be completely uninhabitable for any mutant. Everyone stands in silence, and Storm asks him, "How long do we have?" And Hank tells her, 2 weeks. We only have 2 weeks left. Forge says that can't be right. Maybe the calculations are wrong. But Hank stops him, telling him that his calculations are not wrong. But he just wanted to tell them before they bring this to the Inhumans. Magneto slams his fist down on the table, telling them that he will not let his people be gassed to death. So what is the solution? There has to be something that can fix this. Hank shouts, asking if he was even listening, because there is no solution. Some choices, yes, but solutions, no. The choices that they face now is that either they can leave the Earth and start over, or they can stay and die. Magneto tells Hank that he must have missed another option. They can fight. Hank shouts that's insane. And old man Logan says that if the choices are leaving or lying down to die, then all they got is crazy. Hank tells everyone that Scott almost brought them to the brink of an all-out war. Medusa and her people have not been sitting idle since. They've been preparing. They've been assisting in the research to find a solution regarding the Terrigen, and they've also been readying themselves in case there isn't a solution. There are battle plans in place. He has seen them, and he's pretty sure Medusa let him see them so that he would know that they are ready if something were to happen. Emma tells Hank that he is being naive because they too have been making plans. While everyone is off trying to find an answer with the Inhumans, which she was hoping would succeed, she's been working on a more warlike solution. She goes on to explain that the plan is first handling Karnak, since he can sense flaws, which means he probably knows that the truce is ready to fail. Next, they will deal with Medusa and Untitled and her sister Crystal and her team and their ugly flying ship. Finally, that will leave that monster Black Bolt. He killed Scott, so he'll be hers. Henry asks if she means handle, handle him? And Magneto tells him no one will die. But if the Inhumans refuse to accept the inevitable, then they will be handled. Emma goes back to explaining that once the main Inhumans are subdued and leaderless, that they will be able to freely destroy the remaining Terrigen cloud, which brings them to Forge. Forge says that he designed a machine that should, but Hank interrupts him, telling him, wait, you cannot really be so foolish to think that it would be as simple as neutralizing Medusa and the others. Storm, you can't be on board with. However, as Storm gets ready to answer, Emma jumps in shouting, that is enough! We all know how powerful Black Bolt is, and unlike him, we can handle our plans and not fail at them. As Emma continues to shout, Storm stops her, telling her that they need to take emotion out of this. They've heard both her and Hank's side, so now they need to put it to a vote. The room goes silent, and Logan says that if they don't do this, they're all gonna die, so he's in favor of removing the cloud. Rogue says that she cannot be a part of this, so her vote is no. Both Forge and Henry say that they are for it, and Storm says that they all know how Emma and Magneto would vote, so it's settled. Majority votes to destroy the Terrigen cloud. Hank begins to walk off, shouting that this will be the death of them, unless, like them, he's going to go back to Untitled because he will not be a part of. But before Hank can finish his sentence, a bolt of lightning strikes him in the back. As he tries to pick himself up, he asks Storm, why? She kneels down, telling him that she is sorry. The plan that Emma and Magneto made, it was hers as well. Once everyone moves into their positions with their targets, Emma heads over to New York for Black Bolt's bar. She sits in the quiet room telling Black Bolt that he may be surprised to see her, but here under this roof, it is neutral grounds. No one will start a fight here. But Emma then continues, and she tells him that the only way something would happen is if you started it, right? That's when there's a knock at the door. One of the club performers walks in and Black Bolt looks at her visibly concerned. Emma says that he may look a bit puzzled, but let her make her point very clear. Their truce is over! Emma changes into her diamond form and the woman pulls out a gun and tells Black Bolt to just sit down but before she can finish, Black Bolt opens his mouth and as quietly as he can, he says, "Don't." A blast emits, tearing away at the woman's gun and mask, and the woman begins to shine and says that she thinks the last time that he hit her with that voice, it was worse. Black Bolt grits his teeth, but before he can say another word, Emma punches him in the throat, stomping him. She then tells Dazzler to go ahead. He can't say a word. Dazzler takes off her mask, stating good, because all that power that Black Bolt just gave her is starting to hurt. Might as well give it back, right? She holds out her hand and a blinding light begins to shine, and Black Bolt is blasted through several walls, knocking him out. Over at the Tower of Wisdom, Karnak sits, stating that he was expecting someone to be sent for him, but he was not expecting you. Jean asks, who was he expecting? And as Karnak answers, he stops himself, stating, that's odd. Deja vu. Jean tells him, well, that's because this is the 4th time that we are having this exact conversation. I actually arrived 6 hours ago. The walls of the tower start to tear down, and Karnak looks around at the darkness, telling her that he will get out of here. And Jean tells him that she knows, but by the time that he does, it will be too late. Over in the royal ship flying off, Crystal tells the mutants that they just rescued, that this all may seem a bit scary, but they are the good guys. They just saved his life from the mist. But as the mutant doesn't answer, Crystal tells Swan to go ahead and get him to the medical department and get him a good meal, and afterwards they can take him wherever he wants to go. The man stands up and pulls back his hood, revealing himself to actually be Magneto. He then asks, what if I'm exactly where I want to be? And just to clarify, no one saves me. The royal ship begins to tear apart, and as the metal starts to capture and wrap around everyone, Magneto tells Crystal that while they are on the subject, you don't save mutants, I do. Meanwhile, over in New Jersey, Lockjaw sleeps as he was eating a piece of meat, and Fantomex kneels down holding a pill bottle, begrudgingly stating, oh, Fantomex, you can go after the dog. Over in New Attilan, Medusa and Johnny Storm stare off into the ocean, and Medusa quietly mutters, those fools. Johnny asks what are they going to do, and Medusa says that as far as she knows, the truce still holds. So if they can talk, they talk. Johnny then asks, and if not, Medusa tells him, then we fight. As Storm leads a group of X-Men towards New Attilan, Medusa heads inside and contacts Iso asking where she's at. Iso says that her and Inferno are at the main gates and they've just been sealed. So Medusa says that that's good because Black Bolt, Crystal, and Karnak are not answering her calls. So she needs her and Inferno to get out of there. Find what happened to everyone. Iso asks what is she planning on doing, and Medusa suits up telling them that this is her home and these are her people and she will not let the X-Men steal away the Inhumans' future. As the battle begins, Storm tells everyone that their target is the royal family, not the New Attilan civilians. They must remain unharmed. Down below, everyone engages and becomes distracted, and magic begins to phase in, grabbing their targets and phasing back out. Inside, Henry begins to make his way through the grounds, and Storm radios in asking if he made it. Henry jumps in, stomping on one of the guards, telling her, yeah, he's just a little busy at the moment with the whole being shot at is all. He walks inside of Hank's lab, and Storm tells him to find anything that Hank may have used that'll help them fight off the Terrigen. Just as Henry sits at the computer, the door slams open and Medusa shouts, why are your people attacking me? Wait, who are? Henry then jumps up and tells her, yeah, wrong beast. Medusa's hair shoots into the ground and back up, attacking Henry, and she shouts, how dare you invade her home and attack her people? Hair begins to wrap around Henry's leg, and Medusa slams him back into the ground, asking if he really thinks that he can hurt her. Suddenly there's a BAMF, and Nightcrawler jumps out, grabbing her, telling her, believe it or not, we're not actually here to hurt you, only to take you somewhere where you can't hurt us, and then he BAMFs away. Down at the gates, Iso and Inferno run over to the hangar to escape, and as they open up the doors, they see Sabretooth standing in there, telling them, looky here, a couple of snacks. Iso gets ready to attack, and she tells Inferno that she has studied Sabretooth and she knows his capabilities, and Inferno says so has he, and also he knows that they're pretty much screwed. But before they can even attack, a blast of fire shoots down, covering Sabretooth. Iso asks Inferno what he did, and Inferno says it wasn't him. Johnny Storm flies down, shouting, I got this, just hurry and get out of here. While Sabretooth begins to fight back against Johnny Storm, Iso and Inferno hop on a hover bike and they begin to escape. As Storm begins to watch over the battle, Sabretooth radios in that 2 of the baby Inhumans got away. And as Storm looks around, she spots them and says that she could see them. She radios over to Laura, telling her that the 2 managed to get away. She needs to stop them immediately. Angel swoops down, grabbing Laura, and she radios back, "Don't worry, her ride just got her, they'll handle it." Storm then contacts Magic and Nightcrawler, asking about their prisoners. Magic says that they have all of their targets, they're secured, or more accurately, they're in limbo. Back up in the sky, Angel flies Laura down onto Iso's hoverbike and releases her. Inferno tries to blast her out of the air, but Laura drops through the bike, tearing it apart. Laura then slams down onto the ground while Iso catches both her and Inferno, telling Inferno that they've made it as far as they need to go. As they get up, Inferno asks Iso what is she talking about, and Iso blows away some of the sand, stating not what but who. Eldrac. While Iso begins to set up the warp gate, Angel calls out that they need to come with them. They don't want to hurt them. And Laura tells them yes, they do. The gate begins to open and Laura jumps at them with her claws ready to stab. But as Iso pulls Inferno in, Laura lands stabbing into the sand, and Angel says that they aren't supposed to be killing people, and Laura just grunts. As the blue flash fades, Iso and Inferno look around at the forest that they just landed in. And Iso asks, where did they just go? Inferno tells her that he doesn't really care where here is, as long as they get away from Wolverine. The sound of 2 claws popping rings through the forest, and Logan tells the 2 of them, "Oh, I'm sorry, this just ain't your day." Iso quickly puts on the pressure, blasting, throwing Logan through the trees and calling out to Inferno to keep him busy. She's going to destroy whatever that is down there because she's pretty sure that whatever's being built is going to destroy the Terrigen Cloud. As Inferno looks back, he sees Logan get back up and he says that they may have a problem. He kind of survived. Logan begins to walk up, telling them, "You're the one who beat Sabretooth, right?" And Inferno tells him, Yeah, I did. You better stay back." So Logan jumps, popping his claws, telling him, "There's something you should know. I'm not Sabretooth." As Logan pins Inferno down, he tells him that he needs to call his friend back and leave. This is about people's survival, and he would really not like to mess around. Inferno grabs Logan's arm and slams it into his shoulder and begins to burn and melt it. Down over at Forge's mobile cloud destroyer, Iso looks at the machine and says that it looks pretty impressive. It looks like they're gonna pull in the cloud and compress it into a solid state so they can incinerate it, right? Forge says that that's oversimplifying it, but basically yes. And Iso points, stating that the big round thing is the pressure vessel, right? And Forge says, well, yes, of course, he would have to. Oh no, you mess with pressure, don't you? Back with Inferno, Logan shouts to him, "What are you doing?" And Logan notices Inferno's skin begin to crack. Logan shouts, "You little!" And Inferno charges Logan's body to the point of exploding. At the same time, Forge's machine explodes and Iso radios in that she took care of things up here. And as Forge knocked out, what about him? Inferno starts to crawl away from Logan's smoldering body, telling him, "You're like Sabretooth, right?" Logan will probably be fine, eventually. A short while later, over in New Jersey, Miss Marvel Kamala Khan sits on a building answering her phone, shouting to Iso that she's so glad that she's alright. Iso tells her yeah, she's okay, but she needs her help. They need bodies if they're going to try and fight back. There's plenty of new humans that the mutants don't know about. And then she asks Miss Marvel, "Think you can put a team together?" Kamala shouts that she's on it before hanging up the phone, and then she gets to work texting everyone that she knows. A short while later, Kamala stands with a few of the new Inhumans and says, "You know what? This ought to do it." Meanwhile, over at the Mental Tower of Wisdom, Karnak follows the shadows of Jean down the stairs as she tells him that she's sorry about this whole thing. She really didn't have a choice. After walking into a dead end, Karnak tells her, "There are always choices. Like I can accept my fate and believe I'm a prisoner, or I can look closer and see the flaws in your illusion." He looks at the small fracture in the illusion and begins to punch through it, tearing the walls down. And as the bright lights begin to fade, Karnak looks around at a distorted world and asks, "What is this place?" Fantomex tells him that this is a self-contained ecosphere out of sync with their own time, the place where he was born, the place that will never let him go. Back over at Mur Island, Henry tells Hank through his containment cage that Forge's machine was destroyed. Hank asks, why does he feel that this is about to lead to a follow-up question? And Henry says, well, he was thinking maybe the 2 of them could build something to replace it. And as the 2 of them try and formulate a plan, Emma walks in telling Henry that he's wasting time talking to his older self. He chose them. Hank shouts that he did no such thing. He chose peace. Storm says that Forge's machine was their one shot and now it's gone. Emma tells everyone that their next course of action will be to find Forge. They will find the Inhumans and attack right now. Rogue says that they all know that the Inhumans are going to be furious when they get out of limbo, right? And Emma smiles, saying, if you think they're going to be mad at that, God forbid if they ever find out what we did to Black Bolts. And that concludes part 1 of Inhumans vs. X-Men. Now we're going to be bringing you part 2 in a couple of days. It's just such a long video that we couldn't do it all in a single video and get 2 videos out this week, so we broke this one up. Hope you guys don't mind. Don't forget you can subscribe to the channel to keep up to date when we bring you part 2 of the Inhumans vs. X-Men, where we answer all these questions like what they did to Black Bolt, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comicstorian. I'll see you next time right here.